God builds a nation. The Lord had said to Abram, "Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse, and all the people on the earth will be blessed through you. And all the people on the earth will be blessed through you." So Abram went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. He took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, all the possessions they had accumulated, and the people they had acquired in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan, and they arrived there. By faith, Abraham. Let's see. By faith, Abraham, when called to go to a place he would later receive as his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. Abraham traveled through the land as far as the site of the great tree of Moreh to Shechem. At that time the Canaanites were in the land. The Lord appeared to Abram and said, "To your offspring I will give this land." So he built an altar there to the Lord, who had appeared to him. Now Lot, who was moving about with Abram, also had flocks and herds and tents, but the land could not support them while they stayed together, for their possessions were so great that they were not able to stay together. The Lord said to Abraham, after Lot had parted from him, "Look around from where you are to the north and the south and to the east and the west. All the land that you see I will give to you and your offspring forever. I will make your offspring like the dust of the earth, so that anyone could count the dust, then your offspring could be counted. Go, walk through the length and the breadth of the land, for I am giving it to you." So Abraham went to live near the great tree of Mamre at Hebron, where he pitched his tents. There he built an altar to the Lord. By faith he made his home in the promised land, like a stranger in a foreign country. He lived in tents and did as did Isaac and Jacob, who were heirs to him of the same promise. For he was looking forward to the city with foundations, whose architect and builder is God. Lot made some bad decisions and found himself in deep trouble. He took up residence near Sodom. In retrospect, it was a poor choice of real estate. Soon the king of Sodom and Gomorrah and 3 other kings squared off in battle against an enemy army. The king of Sodom and Gomorrah lost, and the cities were looted. Lot and his family were among the captives. When this news reached Abram, he pulled together 318 trusted men, and without hesitation he set out to rescue his nephew. Their night attack caught the looters by surprise. Abram freed the captives and recovered the spoil, meeting a priest by the name of Melchizedek. He gave him 1/10 of the spoils and delivered to the king what was rightfully belonged to him. Despite Abram's growing sense of God's power, and one problem remained that even the Almighty seemed unable to solve. It was Abram's greatest worry in the main topic of his dialogue with God. After this, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your very great reward. But Abram said, Sovereign Lord, what can you give me since I remain childless, and the one who will inherit my estate is Eliezer of Damascus? And Abram said, You have given me no children, so a servant in my household will be my heir. The word of the Lord came to him, This man will not be your heir, but a son who is your own flesh and blood will be your heir. He took him outside and said, Look up at the sky and count the stars. If indeed you can count them, he said, then to him, so shall your offspring be. Abram believed the Lord, and he credited to him as righteousness. Abraham believed, and it was credited to him as righteousness. From all along, from cover to cover, it has been believed in the Lord that gives you righteousness to be right with God. Against all hope, Abraham. Oh, they changed his name now. Against all hope, Abraham in hope believed, and so became the father of many nations. Just as it had been said to him, so shall your offspring be. Without weakening in his faith, he faced the fact that his body was good as dead, since he was about 100 years old, and that Sarah's womb was also dead. Yet he did not waver through unbelief regarding the promise of God, but was strengthened in his faith and gave glory to God, being fully persuaded that God had power to do what he had promised. This is why it was credited to him as righteousness. Abram believed that the promised child would come from his own body, but as far as he and Sarai knew, God didn't specify that Sarai would be the mother. In a move common during this time, they decided that Sarai's slave Hagar would be a surrogate mother for the promised child. However, after Hagar conceived, she and Sarah quarreled, and Hagar was sent away, helpless and pregnant, to wander in the wilderness. Just as she desired her life, God spoke to her to spare her life. Then the angel of the Lord told her, Go back to your mistress and submit to her. And the angel added, I will increase your descendants so much that they will be too numerous to count. The angel of the Lord also said to her, You are now pregnant, and you will give birth to a son. You shall name him Ishmael, for the Lord has heard your misery, and he will be a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and he will live in hostility towards all his brothers. It's kind of interesting, I just want to put a little side note here that in the Islamic religion, Abraham is the head of the house. He's the head of it all. And in Christianity, Abraham, and Judaism, Abraham is the father of it all. Yes, the head of the house. And Ishmael, and you go down his descendants, that is where Islamic comes from, is Ishmael and Abraham, and Judaism comes from his other kid. So it's just really interesting. She gave this name to the Lord who spoke to her. You are the God who sees me, she said, for I have now seen the one who sees me. That is why the well was called Bir Lahai. It is still there between Kadesh and Beersheba. So Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram gave the name Ishmael to his son. She bore. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore him Ishmael. Then Abram was 99 years old when the Lord appeared to him and said, I am God Almighty, walk before me faithfully and be blameless. Then I will make my covenant between me and you, and I will greatly increase your numbers." Abram fell face down, and God said, "As for me, this is my covenant with you. You will be the father of many nations. No longer will you be called Abram. Your name will be Abraham, for I have made you the father of many nations. I will make you very fruitful. I will make nations of you, and kings will come from you. I will establish my covenant as an everlasting covenant between me and you and your descendants after you for generations to come, to be your God and the God of your descendants after you. The whole land of Canaan, where you now reside as a foreigner, I will give to you as an everlasting promise to you and your descendants after you, and I will be their God." Then God said to Abraham, "As for you, you must keep my covenant, you and your descendants after you for the generations to come. This is my covenant with you and your descendants after you, the covenant you are to keep. Every male among you shall be circumcised. You are to undergo circumcision, and it is the sign of the covenant between me and you. Any uncircumcised male who has not been circumcised in the flesh will be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant." God also said to Abraham, "As for Sarah, your wife, you are no longer to call her Sarai. Her name will be Sarah. I will bless her and will surely give you a son by her. I will bless her so that she will be the mother of nations. Kings of the people will come to her." Now the Lord was gracious to Sarah, as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah as he had promised. Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the very time God had promised. And by faith, even Sarah, who was past childbearing age, was enabled to bear children because she considered him faithful who had made the promise. And so from this one man, and he as good as dead, came descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky, and countless as the sands in the sea. Abraham gave the name Isaac to the son Sarah who bore him. When his son Isaac was 8 days old, Abraham circumcised him as God commanded. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. Sarah said, "God has brought me laughter, and everyone who hears about this will laugh with me." She added, "Who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? Yet I have borne him a son in his old age." God gave Abraham a child of promise, but Abraham had a child already through Hagar, Ishmael. What would become of him? The child grew and was weaned, and on the day Isaac was weaned, Abraham held a great feast. But Sarah saw that the son whom Hagar the Egyptian had born to Abraham was mocking, as she said to Abraham, "Get rid of that slave woman and her son, for the woman's son will never share in the inheritance with my son Isaac." The matter distressed Abraham greatly because it concerned his son. But God said to him, "Do not be so distressed about the boy and your slave woman. Listen to whatever Sarah tells you, because it is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned. And I will make the son of the slave into a nation also, because he is your offspring." Early the next morning, Abraham took some food and skin out of water and gave them to Hagar. He set them on her shoulders and then sent her off with the boy. When she went on her way and wandered into the desert of Beersheba, when the water in the skin was gone, she put the boy under one of the bushes. Then she went off and sat down about a bowshot away, for she thought, "I cannot watch the boy die." And as she sat there, she began to sob. God heard the boy crying, and the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, "What's the matter, Hagar? Do not be afraid. God has heard the boy crying as he lies there. Lift the boy up and take him by the hand, for I will make him into So she went and filled the skin with water and gave the boy to drink. God was with the boy as he grew up. He lived in the desert and became an archer. Okay. Sometime later, God tested Abraham. He said to him, "Abram, I am here," he replied. Then God said, "Take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there, and as a burnt offering on the mountain I will show you." I just want to say that in Abraham's land where he's from, sacrificing children is normal, but where our God obviously is not like that and does not want that, and that's what God is showing to Abraham, that he is not like those gods. And obviously this is a whole depiction of Christ as well, but yeah, anyways. Early the next morning, Abraham got up and loaded his donkey. He took with him 2 of his servants and his son Isaac. When he had cut enough wood from the burnt offering, he set out for the place God had told him about. On the 3rd day, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. He said to his servant, "Stay here with the donkey while I and the boy go over there. We will worship and we will come back to you." Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and placed it on his son Isaac, and he himself carried the fire and the knife. As the 2 of them went up together, Isaac spoke up to his father. "Abraham, father." "Yes, my son," Abraham replied. "The fire and the wood are here," Isaac said, "but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" Abraham answered, "God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son." That's a foreshadow of Jesus. And the 2 of them went on together. When they reached the place God had told him about, Abraham built an altar there and arranged the wood on it. He bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. Then he reached out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But the angel of the Lord called out to him from heaven, "Abraham, Abraham." "I am here," he replied. "Do not lay a hand on the boy," he said. "Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son." Abraham looked up. In the thicket he saw a ram caught by the horns. He went over, took the ram, and sacrificed it as a burnt offering instead of his son. By faith, Abraham, when God tested him, offered Isaac as a sacrifice. He who had embraced the promise was about to sacrifice his one and only son, even though God had said to him, "It is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned." Abraham reasoned that God could even raise the dead, so in the matter of speaking, he did receive Isaac back from the dead. So Abraham called the place "The Lord will provide," and to this day it is said, "On the mountain of the Lord it will be provided." The angel of the Lord called to Abraham from heaven a second time and said, "I swear by myself, declares the Lord." So what's also interesting is every time it says, like, the angel of the Lord, it's actually talking about Jesus. Because he says, "I swear by myself, declares the Lord," and it says that the angel of the Lord is talking, so obviously the Lord is the angel of the Lord. Anyways, that because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, I will surely bless you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as the sand of the seashore. Your descendants will take possession of the cities of their enemies, and through your offspring all nations the earth will be blessed because you have obeyed me. Eventually Sarah died, and Abraham bought a field and buried her, wondering all the while what would become of him and Isaac and God's promise. Abraham had taken another wife, a woman named Keturah, and had more children, yet his entire estate went to the special son of the promise, Isaac. Abram died when he was 100 75 years old and was laid to rest next to Sarah, but the story is far from over. See how far we have. Isaac married Rebecca, as was the custom. She was chosen for him, but he truly loved her. 20 years after the wedding, the couple was still childless, but in response to many prayer, Rebecca gave birth to twins. Esau, the elder brother, grew up to love the outdoors and hunting. He was his dad's favorite. Jacob, the younger brother, was quiet and stayed home. He was clearly his mother's favorite. The two boys vied for the inheritance rights, and Jacob proved to be a master manipulator and schemer. One day, Esau came home famished, demanding some of the stew Jacob was cooking. Seeing an opportunity, Jacob sold a meal to his brother in exchange for Esau's birthright, the double share of his inheritance due to Esau because he was the older brother. Sometime later, as Isaac lay in bed, weak and blind, he asked his hunter son for a tasty meal of charred grilled wild meat. After the meal, Isaac would officially pass on his blessing and God's favor to Esau. This was to be Esau's long-awaited big day. Rebecca overheard Isaac's plan and came up with a plan of her own. She dressed her favorite son. She dressed her favorite son, Jacob, in Esau's clothes and covered his hands and his neck with goat skin to resemble Esau's hairy skin. She quickly cooked up some meat and sent Jacob posing as Esau into Isaac's bedroom. Isaac, squinting his eyes and touching Jacob, wondered if it was really their son. Twice does he build Jacob blind. To his aged dad, Isaac ate. After kissing his son and smelling his scent, Isaac was convinced he was talking to Esau. Then Isaac gave the blessing, also confirming a double share of the paternal inheritance to Jacob, irrevocably and completely. I had to go and grab my baby, and now he is just over my shoulder, like relaxing, because he just has to be held by mom. It's so funny, he will not just come down by dad up the stairs. It's just he wants mom. So he might make a little bit of noises in the background, but hopefully not too much. Also, I'll have to cut it out of the video. Soon after, Esau arrived with his own platter of grilled meat, only to discover that mom and brother had robbed him of his entire future. Angry to the point of fury, he planned to kill Jacob. Rebecca intervened once more and sent Jacob to live with his relatives until Esau's anger abated. Forced vacations may sometimes result in pleasant surprises. In this case, Jacob fell in love with his bosses and uncle's daughter, Rachel, and worked for her family until she could become his wife. As part of the deal to marry Rachel, Jacob first had to marry her older sister, Leah. For 20 years, Jacob tended the flocks and farmland, and finally he took his large family home to meet Esau once again. But Jacob was careful to approach Esau with respect and as always, if I do not